What's up, YouTube? This is Corey from the OverLook, and we go over the books you may have overlooked. I'm not sure if any of you have gotten the chance, but the TV show Superman and Lois is about 5 episodes in on the CW. In the TV show, Clark and Lois have 2 children. The theory is that one kid is going to be good, and the other is going to turn into a bad guy. So, I think this is the perfect time to tell you guys about the time when Jonathan Kent, Superboy, broke bad. Oh, and there's going to be plenty of Batman. I hope you all enjoy. Hamilton County, USA. A small, peaceful farming town located in the Midwest. Properties are spread out. Neighbors are friendly. And kids get to be kids. It's a perfect place to raise a family, or hide one in secret. Jonathan Kent, named after his grandfather, has spent his whole childhood idolizing after his father. Someday, he will be expected to pick up the Superman mantle, but he might have to learn how to fly first. Every so often, the young boy climbs to the top of the tallest tree he can find and leaps upward towards the sun, only to immediately crash to the ground. Life is simple. Everything Clark wanted for his child. Honestly, if he's allowed to be selfish, it's everything he wanted for himself. Clark finishes up his daily chores around the farm and just sits back and admires everything he has. A beautiful wife, a great son, a loyal pet. He feels more human now than he ever has before. He just wishes his parents were around to see this. Dark clouds begin to cover the horizon as the night approaches. The last thing Lois Lane Kent does is check the mail. She flips through the letters and envelopes as she examines them. Lois Lane Kent. Mr. and Mrs. Kent. Lois Kent. It seems as if no one knows how to properly address her. That is when their neighbor, Mr. Cobb, drives by in his dairy truck. "Evening, Mrs. Kent. Radio says there's a storm on the way. That and my arthritis. I'd appreciate it if you sent my granddaughter home. Not to tell you your business, but I think it's best to get that boy of yours indoors where it's safe too." "Sure," she says. "Thanks for the heads up, Mr. Cobbs." "No problem. That's what neighbors are for." Later that night, the rain begins to pour. The sound of thunder and the screams of lightning accompany it. The family Kent heads downstairs to their basement to wait out the storm, as it is customary for normal people in this part of the country. To pass the time, Clark and John play pool. Lois types away on her phone. Even though they are in Hamilton, she still has stories for the Daily Planet that she must send in. John can't help but wonder, how come they have to stay in the basement when it storms like this? "I mean, we've survived worse, you know?" "We have," Clark says. They have been going through a lot of changes lately. Some of them good, some of them bad. But no matter how big or small, Clark swears they will take care of it as a family. More time passes, and John's bedtime quickly approaches. Lois walks him up to his room and instructs him to start winding down for the night. However, something keeps him awake. John takes out his flashlight and stares out into the night sky. He then digs out his Superboy jacket from under his bed and examines his family crest. Something is off. Lois checks on her son and tells him to turn off the light and go to sleep. He half listens. Jonathan turns off his flashlight and prepares to lay down, but that's when he notices something in the distance. Dozens of bats fluttering around their barnyard. He then sees the light from his kitchen as the back door of the house, directly below his room, swings open. His father's shadow grows larger as he exits the doorway. "Not again," Jonathan sighs, looking back down to his jacket. Then, with a smirk, he repeats, "Not again." He is not going to be left out this time, he thinks, as he puts on his jacket and zips it up to the collar before running out the room. Superman, on the other hand, exits the house and makes his way over to the open barn. The screeching of the bats and the flapping of the wings are blending into the sounds of the storm, creating quite an uncomfortable concert behind him. He clears his throat before saying, "You two can come out now," almost patronizing the other's attempt to remain hidden. Lightning strikes in the background. It illuminates the barn just long enough for Batman and Robin to be revealed. Both of them carry quite the scowl. "I'm here to talk, Clark," Batman grunts. "And I'm here to listen, Bruce. What's this all about?" Superboy tiptoes through the barn door and hides behind one of the bales of hay in order to listen in. His father has already noticed him, and apparently, so is his mother. Lois walks up right behind the child before turning on the flashlight. "Superboy!" She grabs him by his ear. "Ow, ow, 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 Mom!" He groans as he is pulled to his feet. She then directs the light towards Batman and Robin. The two shield themselves from the light as if it were a deadly weapon. Lois could have sworn she heard Batman hiss. "Boys," she says flatly, "it's freezing out in this drafty old barn. And in case you haven't noticed, this is Hamilton, not Gotham. We can talk indoors, like normal people." It's almost 11 p.m., but if there is work to be done, why not make a pot of coffee? And you can never go wrong with apple pie. Lois fills up Batman's mug, but the scowl never leaves his face. Superman can't help but smirk at his seriousness. Superboy, however, can't help but be a little concerned. Between bites of his dessert, he asks Robin, "Doesn't your dad like apples?" "Batman doesn't eat pie," Robin spits. "What are you guys doing here anyway? Do you think your dad found out about us in a mazo?" Robin responds by stuffing what's left of his pie into Jonathan's mouth. "Delicious pie, Mrs. Kent." Lois, who is now at the kitchen sink, warns the boys, "I may not have super hearing, but don't forget, I have eyes in the back of my head." The two boys gasp and freeze in place. "If you boys are finished, maybe we should leave your fathers to themselves." She begins to scoot the boys out of the kitchen, but Batman interjects. "Stay, this involves you." He points his attention towards Superboy. This obviously concerns Clark. "What is it, Bruce? What's going on?" "The tests that we ran on John came back inconclusive." "Yes, we know that. High protein and enzyme levels due to his growing powers." The two watch as John downs a glass of milk. "Has he developed any new abilities since then?" "No," Clark tells him, before confirming with his son. "You tell me, right, kiddo?" "Yes, sir!" John cheers with a salute. Bruce isn't convinced. He holds up an X-ray to John and examines him. "There's nothing wrong with him, biologically, in fact. it is quite the opposite. He's very healthy. Almost too healthy. According to his genetic sequencing, his molecular structure and power centers should have completed their transition by now. Yet, as you say, there's been no change. The two parents get defensive. Lois tells Bruce to get to the point. At his core, I believe John, as a human Kryptonian hybrid, should be more powerful than you are on your best day, Clark. His powers should be off the charts by now. So you're saying something's holding him back? Bruce begins to rifle through the pantry. The answer may be environmental. Now, Clark raises his voice. Are you serious? Don't you think I've scanned this town, every inch of this house, the land? If I'm right, John is even more of a potential threat, especially if these facts have eluded you this long, Clark. He's my son. We can figure out whatever comes as a family. This could have unforeseen ramifications. Why does that have to be negative? You specialize in worst case scenarios. But whatever you say, however you spin it, I won't believe the world is more black than white. It's easy to be optimistic while tucked away out here, Superman. But out in the world, the darkness is real and growing. Clark smiles and sticks his chest out. Then we need to shine brighter. Bruce turns around and opens the refrigerator. What do you feed him? Lois puts her hands on her hips in disapproval. Normal food? This is crazy. I don't know why you think you'll find something sinister. There isn't even fast food around here. Mostly organic grocery store items. Dairy, protein, produce. John's friend Kathy even delivers fresh milk from her grandfather's dairy farm. And their prize-winning cow, Bessie. Batman turns around and looks at the now empty glass of milk sitting in John's hand. Tell me about the farmer. Later, at the Cobb's family dairy farm, Bruce searches the area for clues. First, he examines the truck. When that doesn't provide him with a lead, he scans the farmhouse with his X-ray. He sees Mr. Cobbs tucking his granddaughter Kathy in for the night before heading downstairs to wind down by watching some television. All seems normal. But Batman's instincts tell him otherwise. He heads over to the barn where the cow is housed for the night. Hello, Bessie, he says as he holds up John's empty milk bottle. He then removes a small vial filled with chemicals and pours it into the glass. Next, he lowers himself to the small stool next to the cow and grabs onto her udders. It doesn't take long for the milk to be produced. I just need to test a fresh sample. Then I'll be on my way. Batman is at a loss of words as he watches the milk fill the glass. At first, it is its normal creamy off-white color that one would expect. But then, after the glass is about 3/4 full, the milk, leaving the udder, turns black. Batman studies the strange black liquid as it spirals within the glass. The milk begins to bubble. Small black tendrils are made on the surface of the liquid and they jet out randomly as if it were looking for something. Then, out of nowhere, the glass shatters in Batman's hand. The blackened liquid screeches as it jets out into the air. Batman reels back out of shock, but the dark slimy tendrils have already started to wrap around his hand. The screeches continue as it grows in size and aims its tendrils at Batman's face. blinding and choking him, causing him to fall to the ground. Batman struggles to free himself. The viscous sludge keeps spreading, binding his arms and legs together to restrict his movement. The last thing Batman hears before he is completely consumed by the darkness are the footsteps of Mr. Kausz. "What's all this?" he asks as he walks into the barn. "Did we catch another troublemaker?" "Don't worry yourself, Bessie. We'll put him with the others. He won't hurt you anymore. I promise."